Welcome. Tonight, you don't need to do anything. No goals, no worries, no expectations. You've already arrived. This moment, right here, is enough. And you are enough. Let the day drop away. Gently, like leaves falling from an old tree. Let the noise dissolve, like mist in the early morning sun. The tension in your shoulders, the weight behind your eyes. Just let it go. Feel the breath, soft, like the wind through a quiet forest. You are safe now, and in this stillness, you are invited to enter a sacred space. A space where stories become medicine, and ancient wisdom becomes your companion in the dark. Tonight, you'll hear stories, but not ordinary stories. These are Zen tales, timeless, subtle, and alive. Whispers passed down through centuries, told under moonlit trees in distant monasteries, heard by seekers, wanderers, monks, and now, by you. Stories that don't entertain the mind, but gently awaken the heart. In these stories, you won't find a hero. You won't find villains, or battles, or treasures. What you'll find are doors. Doors that open into quiet rooms within yourself. Rooms you may have forgotten. Rooms filled with clarity, with peace, with silence that speaks louder than words. We live in a world that rarely sleeps. Even at night, the mind keeps racing, thinking, remembering, worrying, wanting. Screens glow into the early hours. Our hearts beat to the rhythm of deadlines and notifications. And somewhere, deep inside, we're longing, not for more, but for less. Less noise, less pressure, less pretending. We're longing to come home. To something simple, still, sacred. And that's where Zen enters. Not as a philosophy, but as a path, a returning. Zen doesn't ask you to believe in anything. It simply asks you to see, to be present, to stop running, and rest. That's what tonight is for. As you listen, some stories may confuse you. Some may make you smile. Some may say nothing at all, and still change something in you. That's the beauty of Zen. It's not here to explain life. It's here to help you live it more clearly. So let go of the need to understand. Let go of figuring it out. Just listen. Let the words come like wind through bamboo. Let the pauses be part of the teaching. Let your breath guide you. You may find yourself drifting into sleep. That's okay. Zen stories don't mind. They were never meant to be kept in the head. They live in the heart. And sometimes, it's only in sleep that we can truly hear. So now, take a deep breath. Feel the weight of your body. Feel the softness of this moment. You are not alone. You are on a quiet path walked by many before you. A path of gentle awakening. And tonight, with each story, you take one more step toward peace. Even if you fall asleep halfway through, your soul will keep listening. Because truth doesn't always come through effort. Sometimes, it comes when we are finally still. Are you ready? Let's begin. Zen story number 1. The Candle in the Cave. Long ago, in a quiet land veiled in mist, there stood a monastery built deep inside a cave. It was not the kind of place travelers stumbled upon. You had to seek it, or be called to it. The cave was cold, still, and almost completely dark, so dark that even sunlight seemed to turn back at the entrance. Yet this was where a small group of Zen monks lived, meditated, and waited for awakening. They believed that true clarity is not found in brightness but in the dark. That silence was not emptiness, but depth, and that the cave, with all its shadow, was not a place to escape, but a place to return to. To sit inside it, they said, was to sit inside your own mind. Among the monks was a boy named Ken. He was just 14, newly arrived from a village filled with clamor and color. The markets where he grew up buzzed with shouting vendors, barking dogs, clanging pots. Now, surrounded by stone and stillness, Ken found himself uncomfortable. He fidgeted in meditation. He watched others in silence and couldn't understand why no one spoke. One evening, after a particularly restless day, Ken approached the old master. His voice was hesitant, but full of bottled frustration. "Master, why do we live in darkness? I don't feel peaceful here. I feel lost." He looked down. "I can't see anything. I can't think. I feel like I'm fading away." The master didn't scold him. He simply handed Can a small candle and said, "Go to the center of the cave. Take this light. Sit until it burns out. Then return." Can hesitated, but took the candle and bowed slightly. Confused yet obedient, he stepped into the darkness. The deeper he walked, the less the entrance existed. Soon, it was just him, his breath, and the tiny flickering flame. Shadows danced gently along the cave walls as he moved forward. When Can finally sat, the air was still and dense. He placed the candle in front of him and stared into its wavering glow. The flame seemed alive, like it was breathing with him. Sometimes steady, sometimes wild. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Then the candle went out. Darkness fell like a curtain. Thick, absolute. Can blinked but saw nothing. Not even his own hands. He reached out, but there was only air and stone. Panic rose inside his chest. He could feel his heart pounding. Thump, thump, thump. What if he couldn't find his way back? What if something else was in the dark with him? The cave now felt infinite, and he felt so very small. Then, somewhere inside him, a thought arose. Not loud, but unmistakable. Just breathe. He inhaled, exhaled. Again, he focused on the rhythm. Slow and soft, like waves gently brushing the shore. As he settled into the breath, something began to shift. The panic dulled. The space around him began to feel different. He could feel the texture of the ground beneath him. He noticed a faint sound. Dripping water from somewhere above. The darkness no longer felt hostile. It felt deep, quiet, almost welcoming. And in that moment, Can saw without seeing. He realized the candle had not truly gone out. Its light had moved from wax and wick into him, a light not made of fire, but of awareness. He stayed there, unmoving, nothing to do, nothing to fix, nothing to fear. He wasn't thinking anymore. He was simply there. Time passed, though he could not tell how much. Eventually, his legs began to ache, his back to stiffen, but still, he did not rush. There was no urgency anymore. When Can finally stood and made his way back, the master was waiting near the entrance. The old man said nothing at first, just watched Can approach. There was a new softness in the boy's face. His eyes didn't dart nervously. His breath was deep. His step was calm. "You are different," the master said. Can nodded. "I thought I needed light to feel safe," he said. "But in the dark, I found something quieter and stronger. It was already inside me. I just couldn't see it before." The master smiled. "That is the only light worth finding." Dear listener, you, too, may have your caves, dark places inside your life, or within your thoughts, moments when no light seems to reach. But the lesson of the candle is simple. Your true light isn't something outside you. It's not in approval, not in achievement, not in control. It's in your stillness, in your breath, in your presence. Even when the candle goes out, you remain. Even in the deepest dark, you are not lost. You are simply being shown where to look. So rest now. Rest in that quiet glow inside you. There is no need to hurry. The next story will come soon, and you will be ready. Zen story number 2. The Broken Bridge. In a remote village nestled between rivers and misty hills, there was an old stone bridge. It had been there for generations. Built by monks, used by farmers, crossed by travelers and children chasing kites. It was narrow, uneven, and worn down by time. But it stood. The villagers believed the bridge was blessed, not because of its beauty, but because it had endured floods, storms, and even wars, and still remained. They called it the Bridge of Stillness. One rainy season, the river beneath it swelled. Heavy rains poured for days. The soil shifted, the stones trembled, and one night, half the bridge collapsed into the current. When the rain stopped, The villagers gathered and stared at what remained. Half a bridge, still standing, but leading to nowhere. Some said it was a bad omen. Others argued to rebuild, but no one crossed it anymore, except for an old monk named Taquan. Each morning, he walked up to the broken bridge. He would sit on the edge of the last stone and face the empty space where the rest had once been. He didn't speak. He didn't try to fix anything. He just sat. People watched him from a distance. Some whispered that he was going senile. Others thought he was mourning something. One day, a younger monk named Ryo came from the temple on the hill. He had heard of the broken bridge, and of the old man who sat beside it. He approached Taquan and bowed. "Master, why do you sit here every day? This bridge is no longer useful." Taquan smiled. "Is that so?" he said. "And yet, you found your way here." Ryo looked confused. "But it's broken. It doesn't go anywhere." Taquan looked at the sky. Then the river. "It never really did," he said. Ryo sat beside him. The river below moved steadily, carrying leaves and branches to places unknown. There was no sound but water and wind. After a while, Ryo spoke again. "Still, don't you think it should be repaired, so people can cross again?" Taquan nodded slowly. "Maybe, but perhaps the bridge has completed its purpose. Perhaps now, it teaches by not being crossed." Ryo looked at him, puzzled. Taquan gestured to the broken edge. "Many people believe value lies only in function, that something broken is something lost. But sometimes, when something breaks, it shows us what we've been running past." He paused. "This bridge was once a path. Now it is a seat, a mirror, a place to stop." Ryo was quiet. Taquan continued, softly, "We are all bridges, Ryo, carriers of others, walkers of many paths. But when life breaks us, what then?" The younger monk looked down. Taquan smiled. "If we only grieve what is gone, we miss what remains." The rains returned weeks later, and with them, another part of the bridge fell into the river. Now only the first stone remained. Taquan still came. He sat on that single stone, facing the river as always. No path forward, no path back, just presence. And strangely, more people began to visit. Not to cross, but to sit, to breathe, to look at the water and remember something they had forgotten. They called it the broken bridge, but it was never more whole. Dear listener, sometimes life breaks the bridges we rely on. Relationships, plans, certainties, paths we thought would carry us forever. And when they collapse, we feel lost, like the way forward is gone, like something essential has been taken from us. But perhaps, like Taquan, we can learn to sit with what remains, to stop needing things to lead somewhere, to simply be present at the edge. Maybe your bridge has broken. Maybe your way forward feels unclear. But you are not lost. You are just being invited to pause, to stop crossing, and start seeing. Because even a broken bridge can become a place of healing. Even if it leads nowhere, it can lead you inward. So rest here for a while. Let go of what must be rebuilt. And just sit. The next story will arrive when the river is ready to carry it to you. Zen story number 3. The Bell and the Silence. There was once a temple in the hills of Kyoto, surrounded by forest and fog. It was known not for its size or statues, but for one thing, a great bronze bell, hanging in the center of the monastery courtyard. Simple in shape, but deep in sound. Monks would rise before dawn, and the youngest novice had one duty: to ring the bell gently, just once, before the first sitting of meditation. Not to wake the body, but to awaken the spirit. They said the sound was not heard with the ears, but with the heart. One morning, a new novice named Ren was given this duty. He was young, eager to do it right. He had never touched such a sacred object before. His hands trembled as he held the wooden mallet. He struck the bell, but the sound came out flat, dull, not deep, not clear, not at all like what he had heard before. Ren tried again. Still dull, still wrong. Embarrassed, he lowered his head. An elder monk came over. Smiling, he touched the bell lightly with his fingers. Then said to Ren, "The bell is ready, but are you?" Ren frowned. "I don't understand." The elder sat down next to the bell. "When your mind is noisy, your hand becomes heavy. When you rush, the bell cannot sing." He paused. "Before you strike the bell, listen to the silence within you. Then let the silence ring." Ren closed his eyes. He breathed in, slowly, and out, gently. He waited. Then he lifted the mallet again and struck the bell. This time, the sound was round, full, alive. It rang through the trees. Not loud, but deep. And long after the sound faded, something still echoed in the hearts of those who heard it. From that day forward, Ren no longer tried to strike the bell. He listened first. He waited for the silence to speak. And then he answered. Years passed. Ren became a teacher. And every morning, before sitting in meditation, he would ring a small bell. Always, just once, always, from silence. And even in old age, he taught his students the same words. The bell is always ready, but only silence can awaken it. Dear listener, we often try to ring the bell in our own lives. We push, we try, we chase, we speak before listening, we act before resting. And when nothing sounds right, we blame the bell, the world, the people, the day. But perhaps the bell is not the problem. Perhaps the silence is missing. In a world filled with noise, the greatest healing comes from stillness, from softening the effort, from listening before reacting, from resting before rushing. At night, our minds often ring with unfinished thoughts, things left undone, words unsaid, worries about tomorrow. But no amount of thinking will bring peace. Only silence can. So as you rest tonight, do not strike the bell of your mind too hard. Do not force answers or chase understanding. Instead, sit quietly beside the bell. Let your breath soften. Let your shoulders drop. And wait. Eventually, the silence inside you will begin to ring. Gently, clearly. And the peace that follows will not be loud, but it will echo. Because like the bell, your spirit was never broken. It was simply waiting for you to be still. Zen story number 4. The Worn Shoes. In a quiet monastery near a rice village, there lived a Zen master named Shojin. He was known not for his words, but for the way he walked. Slow, present, silent, and always in the same pair of worn, patched-up shoes. The students whispered about them often. They were old, faded, the stitching frayed. Some said he had worn them for more than 20 years. Others wondered why a respected master would not accept new ones. One day, a wealthy disciple arrived at the temple. He had brought gifts from the city, books, incense, and silk robes. Seeing Shojin's tattered shoes, he was startled. He quickly knelt and offered a new pair made of fine leather. "Master," he said, "please accept these. Yours are broken. Let me honor you with something worthy." Shojin looked at the shoes in the man's hands, then down at his own feet, then at the disciple. "These," he said, touching his worn shoes, "have walked with me through every season. Through snow, through summer dust, through grief, through laughter. They know the path as well as I do." The disciple looked confused. "But they are ugly, cracked. You deserve better." Shojin smiled gently. "Better for whom?" he asked. "For the foot, or for the eye?" He stepped aside and pointed to the garden. "See those stones? None of them match. Some are smooth, some are chipped, but they hold the path all the same." He placed the new shoes gently back into the man's hands. "Thank you for your kindness," he said, "but let these old ones continue their journey." That night, Shojin walked around the temple as he always did, barely a sound beneath his feet. His students watched as he stepped slowly across the earth, not trying to appear humble, not rejecting anything, just being himself. And the next morning, no one spoke of his shoes again. Shojin's sandals became a silent teaching. Visitors came and went, They listened to his words, but remembered his steps. Some brought him fine robes, others expensive gifts. He always accepted with grace, but continued wearing what was simple. And when he passed away, many years later, the monks placed his old shoes at the altar. They did not shine, but they told stories, and when people sat in silence before them, they felt closer to something real. Dear listener, in this modern world, we are taught to replace, to upgrade, to polish, to hide the cracks, the wear, the age. We are told that newer is better, that perfect is more worthy, that appearances matter more than presence. But Zen invites us to return to what is real, to what is honest, to what has walked with us quietly through life's many seasons. The shoes you wear may not be beautiful, your body may ache, your face may show years, but all of it is sacred. What matters is not how things look, but how they hold your life, your footsteps, your breath, your small, quiet awakenings. Shoshin's shoes remind us that the spiritual path is not about impressing others. It is not about appearing holy or wise. It is about walking with sincerity, with awareness, with gratitude. Tonight, as you lie in bed, you do not need to be anyone else. You do not need to fix anything, or look any better, or be more. You are already on the path. You are already enough. So let go of the need to upgrade your soul. Let go of the pressure to appear perfect. Rest in the comfort of your own worn shoes. They have brought you this far, and they will carry you through this night, step by quiet step. Zen story number 5. The Falling Leaf. It was the beginning of autumn in the northern mountains. The trees had just started to change, their green turning to gold and flame. Monks from the temple swept leaves every morning, only to return and find more waiting. And the wind carried with it a silence that felt both calm and strange. One afternoon, a young monk named Ayan sat beneath a maple tree. He watched a single leaf twist and sway in the breeze. It clung to the branch for a long time, dancing gently. Then, with no sound, it let go. The leaf spiraled down, slowly. It didn't rush, it didn't fight. And when it landed on the earth, it looked completely at peace. Ayan stared at it for a long while, then looked up at the sky, and whispered, "Why am I afraid to fall?" Later that day, he went to the abbot and asked, "Master, why do I fear change? Why do I cling, even when I know I must let go?" The abbot closed his eyes for a moment, then said, "Come, walk with me." They walked in silence through the forest. The leaves crunched beneath their feet. The sun poured gently through branches, lighting the ground like soft gold. Finally, the master stopped. "Do you see these trees?" he said. "They let go every year. They do not ask when the leaves will return. They do not cling to what was. They trust that what falls will nourish what comes." He bent down and picked up a leaf. This leaf did not fail. It fulfilled its purpose. Its time on the tree has ended. Now, it begins another part of its journey. He placed the leaf in Ayan's hands. "Your fear," the master said, "comes from forgetting that letting go is also part of life. Not the end of something, but a step into something softer." That night, Ayan could not stop thinking of the falling leaf. He began to notice how everything changes. The breath comes and goes. The thoughts rise and pass. Seasons shift. People arrive, then leave. Even the stars above are never in the same place. And yet, nothing is truly lost, only transformed. And in that quiet realization, Ayan felt something loosen inside him. A gentle surrender. Not sadness, but peace. Dear listener, perhaps you too have something you are holding onto. An old belief, a memory, a regret, a hope that never came. And like the leaf, you are swaying at the edge, not sure whether to hold on or let go. Zen does not tell you when to release. It simply shows you that everything is impermanent, that nothing clings forever, and that peace does not come from holding on, but from opening. You do not need to force the fall. You only need to stop resisting the wind. The leaf does not rush. It dances. It lets go when the moment is right, and it trusts the earth will receive it. So as you rest tonight, notice what you are holding with tight hands. Notice what is asking to be released, and breathe into that space. Let the wind pass through you. Let silence soften your grip. Let the leaf fall when it's ready, and trust that where it lands, something beautiful will begin. Zen story number 6. The Mirror of the Mind. In a small Zen temple near a lake, there was a polished bronze mirror. It stood alone in a meditation hall, framed by wood and silence. The mirror had no decorations, no symbols, no words, just a still surface, waiting. One day, a monk named Daigo came to the temple. He had spent years searching for truth, reading scriptures, climbing mountains, sitting in retreat, but something still felt unclear. He asked the master of the temple, "Why can I not find peace? I have practiced, I have renounced much. Still, my heart is restless." The master said nothing. He simply pointed to the mirror. "Go sit with it," he said. "Just look, no thinking, no judgment, just see." Daigo sat before the mirror. At first, all he noticed was his reflection, his eyes, his breath, the shape of his robes. But as time passed, the image shifted, not literally, but in his perception. He saw how quickly thoughts arose. Judgments, memories, discomfort, pride, each flickered across his face, then disappeared. The mirror showed everything, but held on to nothing. The next day, he returned, and the next. Every time he sat, the mirror reflected a little more. Not just his face, but his habits, his fears, his false identities. He began to understand. The mirror was not magic. It did not offer answers. It simply reflected whatever was brought before it. And in doing so, it revealed what was real. Weeks passed. One morning, the master sat beside Daigo and asked, "What do you see now?" Daigo replied, "I see myself more clearly. And I see that most of what I called me was just passing." The master smiled. "Then the mirror has fulfilled its purpose." Daigo bowed deeply. "Dear listener, your mind is a mirror. Whatever you place before it, it reflects. Joy, sadness, fear, hope, all appear, all fade. The mirror does not hold on. It does not judge. It simply shows. But most of us have forgotten how to look. We try to fix the reflection instead of understanding it. We blame the image, rather than adjusting the light. Zen teaches that peace is not found by adding more, but by seeing clearly what is already there, by removing distortion, by returning to stillness. Tonight, you are invited to sit with your own mirror. Not to change it, not to escape it, just to see. Let your breath settle. Let your thoughts rise and fall without clinging. Let the stillness of the mirror begin to appear. You may see something you forgot. A softness, a sadness, a truth, or perhaps just silence. That is enough. Because when the mirror of the mind becomes clear, the world reflects that clarity back. So rest here now. Polish nothing. Force nothing. Just breathe, and let what is true gently return. Zen story number 7. The Sound of One Hand. A long time ago, a young monk named Kido went to study under Master Hakuin. Kido was bright, disciplined, full of ambition to reach enlightenment. He believed that, with effort, he could understand anything. That Zen was a puzzle waiting to be solved. One morning, Hakuin gave him a koan. A question meant not to be answered, but to be lived. The master said, "Listen, what is the sound of one hand clapping?" Kido frowned. He had never heard such a question. He tried to imagine it, tried to reason through it, but the more he thought, the further the answer slipped away. He sat for days. He covered one hand and clapped the other against the air. He imagined waves, wind, silence, but none of it felt right. He returned to the master and shared his ideas. Each time, Hakuin only shook his head and said, "Return to the question." Weeks passed, then months. Kido grew frustrated, angry at himself. He had read hundreds of sutras. Why could he not solve this? He began to doubt everything. One night, sitting under a tree, Kido stopped trying. He let go of the question. Let go of the need to answer. He just sat, and in that moment, a breeze brushed against his face. The rustle of leaves, a distant bird call, the beat of his own heart. It was not an answer. But something shifted. The next morning, he returned to Hakuin. He bowed and said softly, "There is no sound. And yet, something listens." The master looked at him, then smiled. "Now you are beginning to hear." From then on, Kido no longer sought answers. He walked slowly. He listened more, and in the silence, he began to feel the truth he could never explain. The sound of one hand was the sound of letting go. Dear listener, so often, we want clarity. We want problems solved, questions answered. We seek resolution as if peace depends on it. But some truths cannot be explained. They can only be lived. They do not come through thinking. They come through stillness. The sound of one hand is not a riddle. It is an invitation to stop reaching and start listening. In your own life, there may be things you do not understand. Why something ended, why someone left, why the peace you seek feels so far away. But not everything must be answered. Some things simply are, and in accepting that, a deeper peace can arise. Tonight, let your mind stop trying to solve. Let the thoughts drift like clouds. Let silence speak, because sometimes, the answer is not a sound, but a feeling, not a solution, but a surrender. And in that surrender, you may hear something more true than any words. Zen story number 8, The Sleeping Buddha. In the deep mountains of Thailand, hidden behind banyan trees and orchids, there was a small temple known only to wandering monks. It had no golden towers, no loud ceremonies, but at its center lay a single statue, a Buddha, not seated in meditation, not standing tall, but lying on his side, eyes gently closed, a smile on his lips, hands resting by his body. The sleeping Buddha, they called him. Travelers who came often felt surprised. Wasn't enlightenment about wakefulness? Why would the Buddha be asleep? One day, a young monk asked the abbot this very question. "Master," he said, "if the Buddha is awake in spirit, why does he lie in sleep?" The abbot did not answer right away. Instead, he invited the monk to lie down beside the statue. Not to nap, he said, but to observe. The monk lay down. At first, his mind wandered. He tried to stay alert, tried to stay serious. But soon, his breath slowed. His thoughts softened. He noticed the way the Buddha's face held no strain. How the closed eyes reflected not ignorance, but trust. How the body did not resist the earth, but surrendered to it fully. The abbot spoke quietly. "This is not the sleep of forgetfulness. It is the rest that comes when one no longer clings. No more struggle, no more chasing, just being." The monk closed his eyes too. And for the first time in days, he didn't try to meditate. He simply rested, and felt something shift. From then on, the monk visited the reclining Buddha often. Not to worship, not to ask, but to remember. That rest is not failure. It is part of the path. Dear listener, you may think that rest is the opposite of awareness. That if you sleep, you are missing something. That to grow, you must always strive. But the path of Zen is not a race. It is not built only on discipline. It is also built on softness, on surrender. The Buddha sleeps, not because he is unaware, but because he is at peace. Because there is nothing left to chase. Because silence is enough. Tonight, as you lie down, you don't need to fight to stay awake. You don't need to be more mindful, more spiritual, more perfect. You can simply rest. Let go of the day. Let go of trying. Let your breath find its own rhythm. Let your body be held by the earth. You are not drifting away. You are returning to something gentle, to something whole. The Buddha does not mind if you fall asleep. In fact, he welcomes it. Because even in sleep, your soul can listen, your heart can heal, and your spirit can awaken in its own time. So close your eyes, smile softly, and trust, like the Buddha, that the deepest peace requires no effort at all. Only stillness, only surrender, only rest. Zen story number 9. The Fisherman and the Moon. There was once an old fisherman who lived by a wide, quiet lake. Each night, he set out in his small wooden boat. He cast his net under the stars, hoping to return with fish before dawn. But he was not an ordinary fisherman. He had only one rule. He would not fish when the moon was full, no matter how empty his basket, or how hungry he felt. On those nights, he would only drift in silence. One evening, a young man from the nearby village joined him. Curious, impatient, full of ambition, he wanted to learn the old man's secret to fishing. But when they reached the middle of the lake, the old man put down his net. "Why aren't we fishing?" the young man asked. The old man pointed upward. "The moon is full tonight." The young man looked confused. "But the water is calm. We can see everything. It's perfect." The fisherman smiled, but said nothing. They sat in silence. The moon rose higher, casting silver across the water. The lake shimmered like glass. Even the trees along the shore seemed to pause. After a long while, the young man whispered, "What are we doing out here? If not fishing?" The old man replied, "Tonight, we are not catching, we are seeing." The next morning, they returned with an empty basket. But the young man said nothing. He kept thinking about the stillness, about how, for the first time in years, he had not wanted anything. He came back again the next month, on another full moon, and again the next. Each time, the old fisherman taught him no techniques, only silence, only presence, until one night, the young man saw it. The moon, reflected in the lake, looked close enough to touch. But when he reached for it, the water rippled, and it vanished. And then he understood. The moon was never in the lake. It was only in the mind. Dear listener, there are moments in life when we become like the fisherman, drifting quietly beneath the moon. We stop chasing, stop striving, and for a moment, we simply see. But most of the time, we are like the young man, always reaching, always casting our nets, looking for more. We chase reflections, mistaking them for truth. We grasp at what was never ours to hold, and wonder why we feel empty. Zen reminds us, what we seek is often already here, not in the catching, but in the seeing. You do not need to gather more tonight. You do not need to solve, achieve, or acquire. Let the moon be enough. Let its light wash over your thoughts. Let the silence beneath it hold your heart. And if you feel yourself drifting, let yourself go, because the true wisdom of the fisherman was not in what he caught, but in what he allowed himself to witness. And sometimes, that is more nourishing than any catch at all. Zen story number 10. The fire that doesn't burn. In a village tucked between dry hills, monks gathered each year for a week of walking meditation. They walked barefoot along dusty paths, step by step, breath by breath. The sun was harsh, the wind sharp, but they moved with stillness. One among them was an old monk named Ryoten. He had a quiet presence, his steps steady, his gaze soft, but what people remembered most was how calm he remained, even under pressure. It was said he had no anger left inside him. One afternoon, during the walk, a local farmer grew angry. He believed the monks had trampled his crops. He shouted at Ryoten, cursed him, and even threw a small rock. Ryoten paused. He looked at the man, then bowed lightly. He said, "Thank you," and continued walking. A younger monk who witnessed it was stunned. That night, he approached Ryoten and asked, "Master, didn't you feel insulted? Didn't his words burn you?" Ryoten smiled. He picked up a piece of dry wood and placed it in the fire. They both watched as it lit and cracked. Then he picked up another piece, but this time, soaked it in water. He placed it on the fire. It sizzled, but did not catch. He turned to the young monk. When the heart is dry, anger ignites quickly, but when it is soaked in awareness, it cannot burn. The next day, the young monk walked slower. He breathed deeper, and when someone bumped into him on the road, he smiled instead of reacting. He had begun to feel the fire, but it no longer consumed him. Dear listener, each of us carries fire inside. Passion, energy, desire. But when that fire turns to frustration, to anger, to grasping, we get burned. We react without seeing. We flare up, then collapse, and wonder why we feel drained. But Zen teaches a different way. A fire that does not burn. A warmth that heals, without destroying. It is the fire of presence, of compassion, of clarity. You don't have to put out your fire. You only need to stop feeding it with fear, with stories, with old wounds. Tonight, if something inside you feels hot, restless, let it breathe. Let it be held, not judged. Let the air of stillness cool it. Let the water of awareness soften the flames. Because even the fiercest fire becomes light when seen with love. So rest now. You do not need to fight the heat. You only need to sit by it, without fear. And in that sitting, you will find a warmth that holds, not harms. The fire of peace. Zen story number 11. The empty teacup. In a quiet village near the mountains, there lived a professor. He was a man of great knowledge, well read, well respected. People came from far to hear his thoughts on history, religion, and philosophy. He spoke with confidence, and rarely doubted what he believed. But despite his wisdom, he felt restless. There were questions he couldn't answer. A strange ache inside him, like something was missing. So one day, he decided to visit a Zen master who lived in a small hut outside the village. When he arrived, the master greeted him with a soft bow. He was old, thin, dressed in robes faded from the sun. He said little, only motioned for the professor to sit. The professor began to speak right away. I have studied scriptures from every tradition. I've taught for decades, but I still feel unsettled. I want to understand Zen. Please, teach me the essence of your path. The master nodded slowly, without replying. He picked up a small teapot and 2 cups. He placed 1 cup in front of the professor, then began to pour. The professor waited. The tea filled the cup, and kept pouring. Soon, it reached the rim, then overflowed. The tea spilled across the wooden table, dripping to the floor. Stop, said the professor, alarmed. It's full. No more can go in. The master smiled. Yes, he said, just like your mind. The professor blinked. What do you mean? The master placed the teapot down. You come here full of knowledge, full of opinions, full of conclusions. How can I show you anything new if you are already filled with your own answers? The room was silent. The professor looked at the cup, still wet with tea, the steam rising, slowly fading into the air. He understood. He bowed deeply. The professor stayed with the master for several weeks. He listened more than he spoke. He walked barefoot. He swept leaves. He learned to breathe, to bow, to be present. Some days, the master taught with stories. Other days, with silence. But the professor no longer asked for more. He had begun to feel something he never found in books. One morning, the master served him tea again. This time, he poured just enough. No spilling, no overflowing. The professor smiled, and the master said quietly, "Now, the cup can hold something real." Dear listener, so many of us move through life with full cups, full of judgments, memories, opinions, certainties. We carry so much, yet wonder why we feel heavy. We say we want peace, but we cling to noise. We say we want clarity, but we resist letting go. We want to learn, but we do not make space to receive. Zen does not ask you to believe. It asks you to empty. Not to become nothing, but to become available. When we are too full, truth cannot enter. When we are too certain, wonder disappears. And when we hold on too tightly, we cannot feel what is already here. So take a breath. Let go of the need to understand. Let go of the tension behind your thoughts. Imagine your mind like a cup, and gently begin to pour out the noise. With every breath out, release something. With every breath in, receive space. You do not have to fix yourself. You only have to become quiet enough to listen, and empty enough to feel. Because sometimes, what you truly seek is waiting at the bottom of an empty cup. So rest here for a moment. Let your cup settle, and let your soul drink from silence. Zen story number 12. The bamboo that bends. In a monastery nestled at the edge of a forest, there was a narrow path lined with tall bamboo. Every morning, the monks walked this path in silence, bare feet brushing gently against the earth. One summer, a fierce storm came. Winds howled through the hills. Trees cracked, roofs trembled. The monks stayed indoors, listening to the sound of nature's wild breath. When the storm passed, they stepped outside. Many trees had fallen, limbs broken, roots exposed, but the bamboo still stood, swaying gently in the breeze. A young monk stared at them in wonder. "Master," he asked, "how did the bamboo survive when so many stronger trees fell?" The master smiled, because it did not resist. The next morning, the master took the young monk to the bamboo grove. He tapped a stalk with his staff. It bent gracefully, then returned to place. He said, "Rigid trees crack in strong winds, but bamboo bends and lives." The monk nodded, but looked unsure. "Doesn't strength mean standing firm?" The master knelt and touched the earth. "True strength," he said, "comes from knowing when to yield." He looked up at the bamboo. Softness is not weakness, it is wisdom in motion. Dear listener, in a world that praises firmness and control, we forget the quiet power of flexibility. We are taught to hold on, to resist, to never break. But sometimes, strength lies in the willingness to bend. Like the bamboo, your spirit doesn't need to fight every wind. It doesn't need to stand tall through every storm. It only needs to know when to sway, when to yield, when to let the wind pass through you instead of against you. Tonight, maybe your mind is tired from trying to be strong, trying to hold it all together, trying to stay upright no matter what. But Zen reminds us, softness is sacred. Let your breath move through you like wind through bamboo. Let your thoughts bend and pass. Let your heart soften where it has grown stiff. You do not have to resist the night. You do not have to fix the winds of the world. You only have to stay rooted in presence, and let everything else move through. Because in the end, it is not the hardest tree that endures, but the one that knows how to bow. So lie down, let go, let the winds pass, and like the bamboo, may you rise again, more alive, more whole, more free. Zen story number 13. The river that waits. In the folds of a quiet mountain valley, there ran a river known to the locals as the river that waits. It flowed softly, curving around boulders, through reeds and willow trees. Not rushing, not roaring, just moving. Some believed it never reached the ocean. Others said it had no need to. It flowed for the sake of flowing. And that was enough. On the edge of this river lived a Zen monk named Ryo. He had built a small hut of bamboo and stone. Every morning, he would sweep the steps, boil tea, and watch the river drift past. And every evening, he sat in silence, letting the sound of water become his breath. One day, a visitor arrived, young, tense, his shoulders drawn high, a student from the city, tired of books and busyness. He bowed quickly and asked the monk, "Master, how do I find peace? I've studied and worked, but something always feels missing." Ryo poured 2 cups of tea. He said nothing for a while. Then finally, he asked, "Do you see the river?" The student looked out. "It flows slowly." The master continued, "Even when the rain feeds it, even when the stones are many, it doesn't force its way. It simply goes." The student frowned. "But what if it never gets anywhere?" Rio smiled softly. Perhaps it already has. The student stayed for several days. At first, he grew restless. He woke early, meditated, helped gather wood, but his mind kept pushing, seeking something to achieve. One afternoon, they walked together along the riverbank. The current was slow, almost still in some places. The student asked again, "Why does it wait so long?" Rio knelt and placed his hand in the water. "Tell me," he said, "what is the river missing?" The student paused. He looked at the shimmering water. The sky reflected in its surface. The dragonflies skimming the edge. The soft ripple of wind. "Nothing," he whispered. And in that moment, something let go inside him. Not a thought, not a solution, just space. Dear listener, you, too, may feel caught in a current of urgency. Always needing to get somewhere. Always trying to solve, to improve, to move forward. But peace is not something you chase. It is what remains when the chasing stops. Like the river, you are allowed to move slowly, to pause, to meander, to flow without rushing. The world may tell you to hurry, but Zen invites you to wait. Because in waiting, you see, and in seeing, you soften. Tonight, let yourself be the river. Let your breath move without force. Let your body rest into the bed like water into a riverbed. There is no need to reach the sea. You are already home. If thoughts come, let them pass like floating leaves. If memories rise, let them dissolve like mist over still water. There is nothing you must fix, nothing you must find. Only this moment, only the quiet movement of breath, only the softness of the night holding you, only the current beneath all things, guiding you back to yourself. So sleep now, gently. You do not need to arrive. You only need to allow. And the river will carry you the rest of the way. Zen story number 14. The Cup with a Crack. In a coastal village where salt wind brushed against old wooden homes, there was a quiet tea house run by an aging Zen master. He served no meals, only tea, and he never rushed. Each afternoon, villagers and travelers came to sit in stillness. The tea was simple, green, warm, slightly bitter, but something about the way he poured made it taste gentle. What struck people most wasn't the tea. It was the cups. They were old, mismatched, handmade. Some had visible cracks, sealed with golden glue. Others had small chips or faded glaze. None were perfect. One day, a visitor from the city came. He was wealthy, elegant, and used to porcelain that shone. As the master handed him a cracked cup, the man recoiled slightly. "Why serve guests with broken cups?" he asked. "Surely you have better ones." The master looked at the cup, then at the man. He smiled and said, "This one has served for many years. It has known warmth. It has been held with care. And even with its crack, it still holds tea." The man said nothing. He looked down into the cup. The steam rose gently, curling like mist. He took a sip, and it was enough. After that day, the man returned. He no longer asked for perfection. He sat in silence. He drank slowly. And one afternoon, he touched the crack in the cup and whispered, "This is also beautiful." The master nodded. Dear listener, so often, we try to hide our cracks. The lines where life has touched us too hard. The parts we think make us unworthy. But Zen invites us to see differently. The cup is still a cup. It holds warmth. It shares presence. Its crack is not a failure. It is a story. You, too, may carry such lines. Invisible scars. Old grief. Moments that shaped you in quiet ways. But these are not things to erase. They are places where light enters. Where compassion grows, where truth becomes soft enough to hold. Tonight, as you lie down, you do not need to pretend to be whole. You do not need to hide the broken edges. You only need to rest. Let your breath fill the space within. Let the warmth of stillness pour gently through you. Let your body be the cup. Let your soul hold the tea. And if a crack appears, smile at it. It means you've lived. It means you've loved. It means you can still receive. So rest, dear one, not as someone trying to be flawless, but as someone finally at peace with being real. Zen story number 15. The door that opens inward. In a quiet monastery built of stone and pine wood, there was a door at the end of a long hallway. It was made of dark cedar, carved with ancient patterns, and no one could open it. For years, the monks believed it was sealed. They tugged, they pushed, they tried keys, but the door did not move. Eventually, it became a kind of mystery. They swept around it, bowed in front of it, and left it untouched. One day, a wandering nun came to visit the monastery. She noticed the old door and asked, "What's behind this?" An elder monk smiled. "We've wondered that for years, but it won't open." The nun stepped forward. She placed her hand gently on the handle and pushed. The door creaked inward and opened. Inside was a simple room, bare floor, cushions, soft light, stillness wrapped the air like cloth. It was a meditation room, long forgotten. The monks were stunned. "We always thought it opened outward," one said. The nun sat quietly on the cushion. She looked up and said, "Most doors that lead inward open the same way." Dear listener, you, too, may have been pushing, trying to enter peace by force, pulling at silence, tugging at clarity, thinking the door lies outside. But the true doors of Zen do not open outward. They open within, not by effort, but by release, not by seeking, but by softening. You may be standing before your own door now. You may have tried everything, books, beliefs, expectations, but it will not open that way. Instead, breathe, turn the handle gently, lean inward, step not forward, but deeper. The stillness you're looking for is not on the other side. It is already inside, waiting, listening. Tonight, you do not need to force anything open. Just sit beside the door. Let the stories settle. Let your breath unlock what thinking never could. The path does not begin when you arrive somewhere. It begins when you stop pushing. So close your eyes and let the door open. Quietly, inward. Dear listener, if you're still awake, let your body begin to melt into the bed beneath you. Feel the weight of your legs, the warmth of your hands resting gently. There is nothing you need to do now. No lesson to remember. No story to solve. Just let the words drift like clouds through a quiet sky. If a thought comes, smile at it, then let it pass, like a leaf floating downstream. Notice your breath, soft and steady, rising and falling, like waves arriving and fading on an empty shore. The stories you've heard tonight were not meant to be held in the mind. They were seeds. Some may grow in your sleep. Some may wait for the right season. You don't need to understand them all. Just let them rest in your heart. Let them whisper to the deeper part of you. The part that remembers stillness. The part that already knows peace. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. If your breath slows, let it guide you inward. And if sleep comes now, welcome it, as you would welcome a friend returning home. The path continues, even in dreams. Tonight, you've walked through 12 ancient doors. Each story, a step into quietness. Each silence, a reflection of your own heart. You've heard of candles that light the darkness. Bridges that lead nowhere, yet bring you inward. Bells that ring through stillness. Shoes that walk with humility. Leaves that fall, but never fail. And mirrors that don't lie. You've listened to monks and fishermen, to wind through bamboo, and the hush behind one hand, to stories older than memory, but somehow, still meant for you. Not every word was meant to be understood. Not every symbol was meant to be decoded. Zen is not a lesson to pass. It is a presence to return to. As the Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. And as the Zen masters remind us, when walking, just walk. When sitting, just sit. Above all, don't wobble. Let these teachings soak into you slowly. Not like a flood, but like morning mist. Not loud, but lasting. And when you wake tomorrow, whether rested or still weary. Remember this feeling. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be wise. You only need to be present. Let your first breath of morning be gentle. Let your eyes open with kindness. And let the silence of tonight follow you, not as an echo, but as a quiet companion. In everything you do, thank you for being here. May you sleep well, and may you walk in peace. Always.